Blog Talk Radio.
And welcome to another Friday night edition of Center Stage. I'm Kheri, Hines, your host. Happy holidays to you and your family. Also, I hope that everyone boycotted Black Friday and did not spend one dime. If we can't get it, shut it down. Shut the malls down. We're still looking for justice for Mike Brown. And tonight, we're also still trying to get used to the notion that Officer Darren Wilson will not be indicted for Mike Brown's death. This week, Larry O'Donnell released his thoughts on the Mike Brown grand jury findings, and they were, to be quite frank, they were shocking. We're going to play that tape shortly. He exposed the fact that the Mike Brown grand jury was intentionally given misleading instructions on law enforcement use of force in making an arrest. They were given instructions that were actually ruled unconstitutional in 1985. And one of the photos that you'll see on the screen if you're watching or listening via the Internet, it says, "Who do you call when police murder?" That's a good question. If we can't trust the judicial system to be fair and unbiased, then we're going to have unrest in the streets of America, as we're seeing right now. Our topic tonight is why Mike Brown's grand jury decision is causing unrest. What we're going to do before I open up the phone line tonight is we're going to try to play that tape from Mr. O'Donnell where he explains what went wrong with this Mike Brown grand jury decision. Listen in.
Just before Officer Darren...
We're going to try that again.
Just before Officer Darren Wilson testified to the grand jury investigating his killing of Michael Brown, the Assistant District Attorney handling the case said this to the grand jurors: "I'm going to pass out to you all. You are all going to receive a copy of a statute. It is Section 563046, and it says law enforcement officers' use of force in making an arrest, and it is the law on what is permissible, what force is permissible, and when in making an arrest by a police officer." The Assistant District Attorney, Kathy Alizadeh, then handed the grand...
Okay. I'll get that.
Just before Officer Darren Wilson testified to the grand jury investigating his killing of Michael Brown, the Assistant District Attorney handling the case said this to the grand jurors: "I'm going to pass out to you all. You are all going to receive a copy of a statute. It is Section 563046, and it says law enforcement officers' use of force in making an arrest, and it is the law on what is permissible, what force is permissible, and when in making an arrest by a police officer." The Assistant District Attorney, Kathy Alizadeh, then handed the grand jury a copy of a 1979 Missouri law that was ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 1985. She was handing them something that had not been law in Missouri during her entire legal career. But it was very helpful to Officer Darren Wilson that the Assistant District Attorney handed the grand jury an old unconstitutional law which said incorrectly that it is legal to shoot fleeing suspects simply because they are fleeing. By handing the grand jury that unconstitutional law, the Assistant District Attorney dramatically lowered the standard by which Darren Wilson could be judged. She was telling the grand jury with that document that Darren Wilson had the right, the legal right, to shoot and kill Michael Brown as soon as Michael Brown started running away from him. She was telling the grand jury that Darren Wilson didn't have to feel his life threatened at all by Michael Brown. She was taking the hurdle that Darren Wilson had to get over in his testimony and flattening it. She was making it impossible for Darren Wilson to fail in front of this grand jury. She was doing all of that by handing the grand jury a so-called law that has never been the law of Missouri during her entire legal career. The portion of the Missouri law that was ruled unconstitutional says that a police officer is justified in the use of such physical force as he or she reasonably believes is immediately necessary to effect the arrest or prevent the escape from custody. That was ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 1985. It was legal to shoot and kill fleeing suspects in most states until the Supreme Court made it illegal in 1985, and everyone in law enforcement knows that, everyone except the two assistant district attorneys who were presenting the evidence to the grand jury in one of the most important cases of police use of deadly force in this country since 1985. There is nothing more helpful the assistant district attorney could have done for Officer Darren Wilson right before his testimony than show that incorrect, outdated, unconstitutional law to the grand jury. The grand jury then listened to Officer Wilson's testimony with the belief that anything he did to Michael Brown would be fully justified legally simply because Michael Brown at some point ran away from Officer Wilson. There was a time when that's all you had to do in America to be legally shot and killed by a police officer, just run away from the officer. In those days, American police were summarily executing people in the streets for suspicion of crimes that, if they were convicted for, they would not have gotten the death penalty, and in many cases not even gone to jail. Kids jumping out of stolen cars and running away from cops could be legally shot in the back and killed in those days for a crime that obviously did not carry the death penalty. There was actually one case of a man who spit on a police officer and then ran away from the police officer and was legally shot and killed by the police officer. Spitting on a police officer was a crime in that state, but it did not carry the death penalty unless you ran away from the officer. The district attorney's office allowed the grand jurors to travel back in time to the good old days of American law enforcement when the cops could shoot people for running away. Before Darren Wilson was born, that's how far back in time they went. The assistant district attorneys did that by using the old unconstitutional law as the window through which these grand jurors would evaluate Darren Wilson's conduct. The grand jury listened to the officer's testimony, believing that according to the law, Michael Brown did not have to pose any kind of threat to Officer Wilson to justify Officer Wilson shooting him dead. Weeks after Officer Wilson testified, several weeks after that, just as the grand jury was about to consider what charges they might vote for, the assistant district attorney, Kathy Alizaday, knew that she had better amend the record of these proceedings by introducing to the grand jury the real law, the accurate law on police use of deadly force in Missouri. And so she told the grand jury, previously, in the very beginning of this process, I printed out a statute for you that was the statute in Missouri for the use of force to effect an arrest. So if you all want to get those out, what we have discovered, and we have been going along with this, doing our research, is that the statute in the state of Missouri does not comply with the case law. This doesn't sound probably unfamiliar to you, that the law is codified in a written form in books, and they're called statutes, but courts interpret those statutes, and so the statute for the use of force to effect an arrest in the state of Missouri does not comply with the United States Supreme Court cases. So the statute I gave you, if you want to fold that in half, just so that you don't necessarily rely on that, because there is a portion of that that doesn't comply with the law. She then handed out to the grand jury a new document explaining the law on police officers' use of force, and then said, that does correctly state what the law is on when an officer can use force and when he can use deadly force in effecting an arrest. Okay? I don't want you to get confused, and don't rely on that copy or that print out of the statute that I've given you a long time ago. It is not entirely incorrect or inaccurate, but there is something in it that's not correct. Ignore it totally. A grand juror then asked, the Supreme Court, federal court, overrides Missouri statutes? Now, we all learned the answer to that in high school. It is one word, yes. That is why we no longer have segregated schools in this country. The Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional and illegal to have segregated schools, and that is the only reason states like Mississippi and Alabama and Arkansas and, yes, Missouri no longer have segregated schools. But the assistant district attorney, when asked the simplest question she could possibly be asked by a grand juror, does the Supreme Court override Missouri statutes, couldn't bring herself to say a simple, truthful yes. Instead, she actually said, quote, "Just don't worry about that." Her full reply, word for word, was, "As far as you need to know, just don't worry about that." The other assistant district attorney in the room added, "We don't want to get into a law class." America already had a law class on this when Alabama Governor George Wallace stood in the doorway to prevent the first black students from attending class at the University of Alabama because the United States Supreme Court had ruled states' segregation laws to be unconstitutional. The federal government crushed the little, powerless, angry governor of Alabama when he needed to be crushed in that doorway by the righteous power of the United States Supreme Court and the federal government. It doesn't take a law class to explain to a grand juror that, yes, the United States Supreme Court does indeed override Missouri statutes. It takes one word. Yes. But that is not the worst, most unprofessional aspect of Assistant District Attorney Kathy Elizadeh's presentation to the grand jury about this law. The very worst part of it is that she never, ever explained to the grand jury what was incorrect about the unconstitutional statute that she had given them and left with them as one of their official papers for weeks and weeks and weeks. You will not find another legal proceeding in which jurors and grand jurors are simply handed a law and then weeks later handed a correction to that law, and then the grand jurors are simply left to figure out the difference in the laws by themselves. That is actually something you would do in a law class. Figure it out by yourself. With prosecutors like this, Darren Wilson never really needed a defense lawyer.
Well, y'all, let's see. That 10 minutes and 44 seconds of the breakdown of what happened with the Mike Brown grand jury really made me sick. I'll be honest with you. I was at a loss. I was at a loss because I listened for weeks as many people, European people for the most part, said, why are the protesters still in the streets? What do they want? They haven't even listened to what the grand jury's going to say. They're already out there marching, and they don't even know what the decision is going to be. Why don't they let the process, complete its course before they get out there? Well, now y'all know why. Because the process does not work for people of color. I had a conversation this evening with Mark Danielson. He may be listening, and if he is, he can get on the phone and defend what he said to me. But Mark said, listen, Kheri, all of this is just is an illusion. All of it is. And I said, no, Mark, it's not an illusion. It's not an illusion when black men are being killed in the street by police. It's not an illusion when black men are being thrown in prison for 30 years for shooting a dog. It's not an illusion when black men are getting 35 years for bad lyrics in a song, whether that's gutter or whether that's the criminal, content. It doesn't even matter. 35 years, really, for a song? So, excuse me, Mark, but it's not an illusion to me. It feels very real. The system, is it broken? Yes. Is the system designed for certain people to succeed and other people to fail? Yes. So, excuse me, y'all, but that case made me sick. I mean, it made me sick to my stomach because once you get caught up in the system, it looks like unless you have big dollars, as in celebrities or, people like OJ, you are just caught up. I mean, and unless God's grace falls upon you, it's over. So the illusion feels very much like a reality to me. But let me get my panelists and my co-host on tonight. Let me tell you who's sitting on the panel tonight. Of course, as always, Christopher Bonds is with us. AJ, I believe, is going to be absent this evening. He's with family. Our returning co-host, Mr. Kufu, MJ Cush, is going to be sitting on the panel. Mr. Paul Beatty is with us tonight. Nissa Pierce is going to be with us. I believe we're waiting for Dr. Randy Short. I don't see him on the line yet. So let me begin to open up phone lines. Good evening, Anissa. Good evening, Mr. Paul Beatty. Good evening, Kufu. And good evening, Christopher. How are you all doing this evening?
Fine.
Doing just fine, thank you.
Just fine, Kheri. How you doing today?
I'm good. All y'all heard what Mr. O'Donnell just said. What thoughts are running through you all's mind as y'all listen to that? And typically, y'all, I don't let 10-minute speeches go on this show. But I thought this one was so important. I don't typically do recordings, but this one was so important. The breakdown, because I haven't seen this in writing. So I'm assuming Mr. O'Donnell has come in contact with some version of this grand jury process that we have not gotten yet. Well, what were y'all thoughts?
Kheri, well, I think the reality of the matter is criminals are released every day due to technical difficulties or technicality. I think that this was a thug who was set free by those that follow this legal system. That's the matter that remains that we still have over 1 million plus people who do not follow this legal system. So if he seems to think that it's okay to walk free, all of the money that he's earned due to this criminal act that was committed on mankind, he's got to use it to hire one of those to hire a bulletproof vest and continue to move from day to day.
Wow. You know what? I didn't agree with the New York Times giving out his address. I didn't agree with that part. But at the same time, I don't know that he's ever going to be saved. I really don't. And I don't encourage anybody to do anything to him. I really don't, because I think eventually fate will find him no matter where he lives. But at the same time, I don't even know how Darren Wilson can live with himself. I really don't. What are the rest of y'all's thoughts on it? I'm sorry?
And Kheri, in terms of Officer Wilson, this is the thing, dealing with the laws and also dealing with the proceedings, the court proceedings. Officer Wilson, as well as any other civil authority, they have a responsibility as being a public servant. So I have some sympathy for him, but not a whole lot, because he also elected to take the advice of his taxpayer-paid attorney and do the wrong thing and basically continue in the pattern of a lie. Now, he could have come forward irrespective of everything else and really told what went down, and basically he could have then maybe pled mercy on the court. So I don't have too much sympathy when you have the ability to come clean, but you're worried about your job, you're worried about the prestige, and the rest of your brothers in blue. So I don't really have that much, because he could have turned things around irrespective of the legal counsel that he was getting. And then, too, keep this in mind, because this is one of the things that I know we will talk about time and time again. The key things are, why would a prosecutor do that? The assistant prosecutor and as well as the senior prosecutor. Well, I can tell you, when you have absolute immunity, that breeds a very negative sentence, meaning that they knew they were going to utilize that tactic of a lie, and a U.S. Supreme Court decision that was made that made it unconstitutional to utilize that. So what they did is that they threw that in the face of the grand jury, knowing that they would have to basically dedact or retract it later. But the damage was already done. And when you have absolute immunity under the U.S. Code 42 of Section 1983, that is the very thing that I'm fighting in my case too, and thereby a lot of people end up fighting. Because in order to sue a district attorney, state's attorney, a police officer, you have to prove that they didn't have probable cause. The reason they use that nugget dealing with the use of force is because they knew that they had to keep probable cause towards justifying it versus probable cause that they didn't have to then indict or elevate charges against Officer Wilson. And then, too, you can tell the pattern. Whenever you see a district attorney or a state's attorney that does not formally press charges, even before the grand jury, because really, 9 times out of 10, prosecutor is going to press charges. They have that authority even before they go to the grand jury. So when you see these things happening, you better believe that they're not going to go forward and try and press charges against an individual. But I wanted to make that crystal clear.
Yes. Well, Anissa, this is Anissa. Kheri?
Hi.
Hi, this is Anissa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know,
weird because we can hear the wind in somebody's background, whoever that is. Okay, stop.
Understand something. I'm here in St. Louis County, and it is a small community. And these individuals, both on the legal side and the law enforcement side, have relationships outside of the workplace. That being said, you got to understand, he knows this guy. He knows this guy beyond this shooting. Keep that in mind. The associations are there. Now, someone talked about money. First off, Officer Wilson, I understand, according to word of mouth, he's got made $1 million or plus or whatever. When the Brown family sues for wrongful death, that money can be transferred over. So the more public information that is out there, the better. If you look at McCullen, he's actually broken a couple of laws. He can actually lose his license completely, and he can actually he can legally be taken out of his position. What we need to do, and there's some people that's been talking about that here, what we need to do is look at all of the laws that are in place, and did he violate our laws? If he violate our laws, if he did that, that changes all of the patterns. You know, sometimes you take emotion out and you bring the legality or the technical components in. Now, you can go deeper than that. You can find out with a private investigator whether or not they had relationships prior to this situation, if there are pictures of them together. That is also easily done, especially if it's been utilized on social media.
Well, we do know, and Kufu, I haven't forgotten here, we do know that fundraiser, that T-shirt fundraiser that was held for Darren Wilson, that the fundraiser company is owned by Bob McCullough. We do know that. So there is some connection because any dodo would have known that that's a conflict of interest and would not have gotten involved. So there is some kind of, lines crossing that maybe shouldn't have been crossed. Especially in the middle of a case this high profile, for him to allow his company to collect money for Darren Wilson was just, an absolutely stupid move. Unless it was just intentionally try to sit off the whole community. I don't know.
Well, remember something. McCullough is an officer of the law. He is there and has been sworn in. So that's legally admissible. He's been sworn in to uphold the law. But to stand there and say you're prosecuting the guy that you're also defending, it becomes moot. Actually, everything that happened, and if there are any attorneys on the line, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have a law degree. But if you are there as an officer to uphold the law and to prosecute people that have committed crimes, but you turn around and financially support their defense, is what happened Monday moot?
I hear you. Good question. Kubo, your thoughts?
Well, Kheri, I'm in agreement with the lady about, but I think it's criminal that the prosecutors misled the grand jury about, according to the statute of law. And I'm in hopes that somewhere the Justice Department can come in and pick up because of those mistakes or whatever committed by district attorneys, and that maybe the Justice Department can find some kind of way to reindict Mr. Wilson. I don't know. It's just so criminal that they would do that, knowing that they know the law, they know that they misled the grand jury. But it's just like in America, the whites just do things and expect for society to accept it. I don't know. This is rough for me.
This is normal practice here. It's normal practice here.
Wow.
Trust me, these things have been going on for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it just took Mike Brown's case to be this high profile for the world to see that Ferguson has been in trouble for a long time. Yeah, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 314-853. Good evening. You're on Center Stage.
Good evening, Miss Kheri, and to all of your guests there. From what I'm hearing, and I'm not in the law either, but it seems that they could reopen that case if they have new evidence, not only new evidence, but what this prosecuting attorney, what he did and how he did it. Should that be enough to take them back to court and retrial this case?
We are soon going to find out.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. There is enough evidence, and not necessarily new evidence. It's evidence that was on the table, coupled with some new evidence. There's a law in every state. In Illinois, it's found under the defenses and exception to liability. This is specifically meted out for district attorneys, state's attorneys, and police officers. Basically, what it is, it's called the wrongful use of civil proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
Once you validate that civil authority or that civil servant violated that law, then it's going to take the people rallying to force the state attorney general and the U.S. attorney general, the Department of Justice, to do their job. Now, there have been rare cases where there's been a movement behind getting a prosecutor held liable along with the police officer that was involved, because it's a couple twofold thing. You can basically do two for one. You get the police department or police officer, but you also get the prosecuting attorney. And the reason that is that it is usually the police. Keep this in mind. It's the police department that turns over the investigation to. The only thing they do is arrest, but it is the state's attorney or the district attorney that levies the charges. The grand jury is just the third party that basically authenticates what the prosecutor is asking for. So again, if the prosecutor doesn't ask for it, 9 times out of 10, or the evidence or lack of evidence that they give the grand jury, then that finding is. So I think we will have a case of use of civil proceedings.
Well, let me say this to Miss Kheri.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, when you first came on, it was interesting what you said, that made you sick of the stomach, right?
It did. Mm-hmm.
Now, just think of all the people that's going through what you went through. That's why I say, that's why I was waiting for you last week to give me that attorney's number. People should file a class action lawsuit against this state of Missouri, because they have put people through pure hell. And I think a lot of these people are sick just like you. They probably haven't talked about it or got in the news about it, but, I mean, I'm sick of it. I should be seeing a psychiatrist. We all should go see a psychiatrist behind this, because what we're going through is a shame. And what they and how
Go ahead.
and how
I forgot it, but I'm going to get you that attorney's number. I completely forgot. It's been a crazy week, but I am going to get you that number. I am. Can you stand by while I take some more calls? The phone lines are jammed. Can you
what do you say? What do you say?
Can you stand by while I take some more calls because the phone lines are jammed?
Well, let me say this right quick, and I think that the black policemen, they should be ashamed of themselves, because anytime you don't speak out about this, which I know, anytime this system puts you in a position, you are not supposed to go against them. But these are black officers afraid to say anything, that they will lose their job. Well, I guess they will lose their job. But that's why I say I could not be a policeman. Know before you go what you got to go through.
Exactly. If you just tuned in, you come center stage tonight. We're talking about the topic, why the Mike Brown grand jury decision is causing unrest. The calling number tonight is 347-850-8390. Again, the calling number is 347-850-8390. Then press 1. We want to hear from you if you feel that Bob McCullough should be removed, if you feel the grand jury was bombarded with too much information, if you feel that the grand jury was given misleading information that may have caused them to come up with the decision that they did. We want to know if you feel that the grand jury has been should not have been given the responsibility to come up with the charges. Was that Bob McCullough's job and not the grand jury? We're going back to the phone lines. We're going to pick up area code 314-651. Good evening. You're on center stage. 314-651. Good evening. You're on center stage. Obviously, that person doesn't know. We're going to say it one more time. 314-651. Okay. We'll come back to you later. Area code 206-860. Good evening. You're on center stage. 206-860. Okay, obviously nobody is knowing that I'm coming to them tonight. The last call, area code 206-860. We're going to go to 314-368. Good evening. You're on center stage.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. How you doing?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yes, ma'am. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I stay not too far away from the Ferguson area. And if I'm not mistaken, the topic is what is causing unrest? Why is the decision causing unrest?
Yes. Well, basically, why the Mike Brown grand jury decision is causing unrest, but same thing.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, in my opinion, I believe it's causing unrest because we knew from the beginning, from the get-go, that the outcome was not going to be in our favor. Right. Secondly, we already knew that Bob McCullough was not the right person to prosecute Darren Wilson, number one being that his father was killed in the line of duty as a police officer, so he cannot properly prosecute someone with that. I'm not saying that he can't, but chances are he's not going to be fair in prosecution. Also, I ran across something online today that states that Darren McCullough is a vice president of this a coalition called the Backstoppers, which funds the police officers, the families of police officers that are killed in the line of duty. Now, how can Darren McCullough properly prosecute or give due justice in this situation if he is the vice president of the very same group that funds Darren Wilson? So, that right there is the reason why I think there's a lot of unrest, because we clearly see that there's corruption and that this process was not a fair process. So, that's the answer to why there's so much unrest, in my opinion, because we already know that we're not being treated, fairly.
Well, Carl, what do you think should happen from here? Do you think it's not realistic to think that the protesters can continue to protest indefinitely? So, what do you think should happen from here?
From right here, this protesting, this boycotting, everything that we do in vain. Everything we do that will be in vain if we don't do anything to pull our resources. And we have to do something in order to pull our resources that we can do something for ourselves. Because without, they're not going to support anything that we do. So we have to rely on ourselves for this in these kind of situations. We have to buy black. We have to support our own. We have to build something for ourselves so that I mean, we can't keep complaining about them treating us wrong if we're not doing anything for ourselves. You know, they don't have enough jobs for their own people, and they're not even thinking about getting jobs for us. So, I mean, that's the solution, in my opinion. You can boycott all you want to. You can get upset. I mean, we just have to focus on our will. We cannot allow our emotions to redirect our will and continue to protest. Protesting doesn't, I mean, it's not as effective as actually pooling your resources among your people and creating work, you know, for your own people. So, you know, that's my idea. You know, I was on a call the other day, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I was on a call the other day, and you know, I was saying that Minister Farrakhan, not to step on anybody's toes, I'm not trying to be religious or anything, but he's already set up a plan called the Economic Blueprint, where if everyone was to donate 5 cents a day, we could have $291 million and $2,000 in the National Treasury, where we could purchase land and make jobs for our own selves, because America in various areas, there are a lot of land in the Delta and the South and Mississippi that is up for sale. So if we were to, I mean, that's the only solution, in my opinion, because we don't have anything to call our own here in America. So we don't have anything that we can stand on or protect. Right now, we're basically trespassers, you know, walking on someone else's land. So that's my solution to this problem here. I mean, we can protest all we want, we can be emotional, but we don't do anything about it. It's going to happen again and again and again. So.
Kheri, can I respond? Can I respond to what's actually going on? First off, the boycott is a part of a strategic plan. What we've done is that we put together a mock letter to send to the Department of Justice. We also have an electronic petition already set up to go directly to our capital, asking for a special prosecutor. Between all of those two, we've announced a boycott. Started at midnight and ends midnight New Year's, the midnight New Year's Day. In other words, it ends right at January 2nd. On top of that, it tells them we are not going to shop. The last 2 weeks are the most important weeks. Companies that were short rely on the last 2 weeks. Everyone knows this. Here, I can't speak for other cities, but here, white, privileged, rich, white, privileged people into the malls at 9 a.m., the most prestigious malls here, and shut them down. They laid on the floor and stood arm in arm, and they shut it down. The news media here had to report at 9 a.m. that no one was in the stores, and then they were all over the media. And you can Google this. Malls shut down. These are the prestigious malls. Was shut down. Not only that, but they didn't understand where the people were. They didn't understand why the people weren't shopping. Believe me, it might have worked nationally, but it worked here. Our intent is to say we are not going to spend money. Now, you talked about the community. Let me tell you something. I want to make sure everyone goes down there and go to Facebook and type 2014 National Blackout. It gives you instructions. You are allowed to, during this boycott, to shop in minority and women-owned businesses and small independent businesses. You are allowed to, of course, get your medicine because we don't want you dying on us, and getting your groceries. Some people bulk shop prior to midnight. Also, phase 2, we talked about the electronic transaction of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
Exactly. So when that conversation was brought up, we began to look at, well, what can we do? The phase 2 component is that we are giving people directions to withdraw their money January 2nd out of major major banks and investing in your local credit union, and that we are not to acquire new credit, we are not to get new loans, and we are going to try to come up with a bartering system. We are currently doing research on whether or not we could do that online if there's a safe way, because it is unregulated. These are the conversations that are being held now. So, no, we're not doing this just because we want to do this. We're doing this specifically. We are saying the minute that the Department of Justice indicts him, the boycott lifts. If the boycott doesn't lift, when they get ready to report the financial gross national product for the end of 2014, they're going to have to compare it to the loss.
Let me jump in on one thing you said in this, and I said this on a previous show, and I'll say it now. I'm someone who has a background in finance, and I was a mortgage broker for over 10 years. That said, let me say one thing that I disagree with. When y'all start talking about moving the money, that's a very dangerous move, because what I'm saying, and please hear me out. Let's just say 50,000 black people took all of their money out of Chase and moved it to a small credit union. Okay, we know that that's going to change some stuff. Well, what I do fear if that happens is that credit union all of a sudden will some kind of way be out of alignment with FDIC guidelines, and then some kind of way people's monies will be frozen. So that's my only fear, and I'm just saying, I'm not sure that's what will happen, but I'm just saying rethink that one and make sure y'all understand all the rules and dynamics to moving money like that in mass numbers, because we know the trickery. If they can do it in the court system, we know they can do it in the banking system, because that's the private sector. So we got to be careful when we tell folks, everybody move your money, just because we know certain groups of people don't play fair. And just imagine, just imagine if you live in paycheck to paycheck and you move what you got from Chase and you put it in a credit union, and then all of a sudden they tell you that you got a 30-day hold on your money. Do you feel me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I ain't gonna get on.
Okay, and right now that's a part of the conversation now. The hope and the plan is to make that the second threat. What comes with that is a press release stating that this is what we're going to do if there's not legislative change. So the first boycott is for the DOJ to indict him. The second request, which is the bigger one, is policy change nationally, statewide, and locally. And that is the baby that we're wanting to hold hostage, our funds in the banking institution. And because it's so sensitive right now, I think it carries a lot of weight. So that's supposed to be the second punch. Now, do we want to do that? Absolutely not. But we would like to have ourselves in a position where they take us so seriously that they do. And that's why the boycott is so important. If it can be impacted on a national level, mind you, we just started at midnight. This doesn't end until January 2nd. If we have an impact, we will be considered serious and be respected when we go for phase 2.
I agree. We're going to go back to the phone lines unless the panel wants to jump in right here. Okay, we're going back to the phone lines. I'm sorry, was anybody say anything before I go to the phone lines? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, 314-532. Good evening. You're on Center Stage. Okay.
Yes. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Yes, I just wanted to insinuate that we could put a commercial lien against that guy and get him off his seat. Everything works by affidavits. And we can get him off his seat. I think that should be the first thing that we do to make him powerless. He don't have any power after that. And we could put a commercial lien against him, and anybody in government seats, we can put a commercial lien against them and get them off their seats. And so I got somebody else want to say something.
All right.
Okay.
Hello. This is Susie Mayberry Parker, State of Missouri, Governor for IBEB PAC. It has been a structure for me to network our empowerment with banking and having invested interest into ourselves and anteing up for what we need to do amongst ourselves. We can develop our entrepreneurship with our shares. IBEB PAC is the structure. It's just like White House. It's just like the Amish. It's just like different groups that have their original form of structure. And just want to let you guys know we can network together. I'm on the south side of the city. Work with Brothers Aki, Baruti,
and just let's do our organization for us building enterprise.
And see,
I received
it was a change back then.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying there was a change back then, and so
okay,
wherever
how do they? Let me get something started. How do they find how to connect with you? You're saying go through Zakiba Rudy, or go through what? How do they connect with your website?
I'm on Facebook, Susie SUSIE, Mayberry MAYBERRY, and Parker. And the resources that I know is WhiteHouse.gov, Library of Congress, Infinity Building Economics, and Black Political Action Committees. And we have invested interest into it. It's a board of us. We need 50 people on board to make this work and start our investment and purchase land. We can... $25 to get the entrepreneurship going. You'll have a personal share of $100. You have another personal share for affordable housing that has not been created with renewable energies. You will have your opportunities for invested interest into the bank and credit union that we are creating. It has the structure for us to network our businesses, those who want to start businesses, those on SSI, veterans, we can talk.
Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Thank y'all for calling in tonight. 314-368. 314-368. Good evening, Moses.
Yes, ma'am. I was caller talking about the pulling the resources, and I didn't get a chance to respond to the sister that was speaking after me.
Okay.
My thing was, I wasn't saying that the boycotting thing is not effective. I'm not saying that. But as she said, and I agree with her, there's a different phase to it. What I was saying was that protesting is not the only thing. It's not the end all to be all solution, because as we see, we protested in the 60s. And we asked for jobs and justice, and we're protesting now, today, 2014, 40 years later, for jobs and justice. So we know that protesting only has a certain effect. Everyone plays a role in this. So I'm not saying if you would like to protest, if that's what you want to do that, because there are different battlefronts. Everyone can't do everything, you know what I'm saying? So, but my thing is that, and I'm not saying that, this is not something that's just my idea. This is beyond me. There's a website that everyone can go to look at this. It's legit. It's not there's already everything set up. People have been donating money to this.
Okay, give them the website. Give them the website.
The website is www.economic blueprint BLUEPRINT.org, and it goes and shows you all the details. Any questions that you have, you can find out on their website. And I've posted that the link to the website on the page, which I was invited to this call. So that's pretty much what I want to say, is that I'm not saying that protesting is ineffective. I'm just saying that there's more than one phase to it. If we expect that protesting, we can't expect protesting to be the end all to be all, is what I'm saying. But protesting has been very effective in this situation, to my surprise, in terms of shutting down the mall and things of that nature. So that's pretty much what I want to say.
I agree. Thank you, caller. If you just tuned in, you come center stage tonight for the topic, why the Mike Brown grand jury decision is causing unrest. The call-in number is 347-850-8390. Then press 1 once you're connected. Should Bob McCullough be removed from office? Was the grand jury bombarded with too much information? Was the grand jury given misleading information when they were given the information about what an officer can and cannot do when he's arresting someone in terms of using lethal force? And should the grand jury have been left with a decision to determine what charges Darren Wilson should be charged with? And did Bob McCullough play defense attorney instead of prosecutor in this case? We're going back to the phone lines. We're going to pick up 314-393. Good evening. You're on center stage. 314. 393. Okay, y'all got to know when
Oh,
you
yes,
press one.
ma'am. 314-393. Good evening. First of all, my name is Sauda. I'd like to thank you for the program. I think we know the answers to most of your questions, sister. The prosecuting attorney presented this information to the grand jury to get the desired result. He never intended to prosecute this police officer. The grand jury did their job with what they had to work with. Yes, they were overwhelmed. Yes, they were bombarded. He did not have to give them individuals that were not credible. Okay, he never intended to prosecute or bring this man into a court of law. Now, my issue is if the Department of Justice indicts the police officer, he goes to trial, and his defense produces a defense that he is found innocent or not guilty, then how will the community feel?
You know what? And let me answer that if nobody wants to jump in. First of all, the community feels like this. We know the system is flawed, but at least we know that if they take him to court, at least they gave him his day in court. We had that with Zimmerman. We were disappointed, but we saw in the George Zimmerman case that the prosecuting attorneys did not do their job. The defense attorneys presented a better case. So when we looked at it, we didn't like it, but at least we saw the process complete itself. In this particular case, we saw a trickery involved. We saw where the prosecuting attorney went in, presented basically a defense for Darren Wilson, which, where do they do that at? So in terms of that, I think we may be disappointed if he's not prosecuted, but at least we'll feel that the process completed itself. That's all.
So we're going to accept the racism, and we're going to go on business as usual. One thing, the point the young brother makes with the economic blueprint, because owning land and cultivating it to produce from the earth everything we need to live and become a productive people, then sell the surplus through trade and commerce, which produces an economy and generates wealth. The whole movement for us as people on this part of the planet Earth is a complete and total separation from our open enemy.
This is okay. I want to say something. That's why Phase 2 is so important. It changes laws and policy. And this, in order for laws and policy to be changed, you have to have a case, a precedent. This can be the precedent that catapults all of the changes. Now, anybody interested in getting certified as a minority-owned business, whether you want to go on a federal level or a national level, I've attached all those links to our Facebook account. Not only that, but there are a lot of minority-owned businesses. As a matter of fact, I got bad news for you guys. The majority of the businesses that were burnt were minority-owned businesses. But what we've done here is we've brought our community together. We've raised funds, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to help. We can now have 0% interest rates to help them get on their way. The Ferguson School District, every child in the entire school district gets free lunch. There are so many things that are going on here on a local level that the media does not cover. We're doing a lot of things. There are people who have come in and opened their homes to individuals while they go through that process. We now have doctors and clergy on call for anybody that is stressful. Young man talked about the stress. Absolutely. We have grief counselors. So what we want to do here what we call ground zero is we want to make sure anybody that wants to get help, anybody that needs to get a job, there are so many things that are going on that's not being covered that I can't speak to, that are being on a local level, that are happening here. See, people see what they see on television, but what they don't see is what happens when the cameras leave, okay? Now, that being said, in order to make a change, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you become the next Mexico. And I've talked to people about this. Everyone's like, well, let's get up and move. And so, honey, let me tell you something. If you decided to move to Nevada or whatever, get a piece of land, this is what's going to happen. They're going to put a fence around that territory, and they're going to dump their waste in it, and it's going to become a third world. They're going to be able to fly in and out, bomb our butt, and go on about their business. You don't. The best way to divide an enemy is to become a part of them. You don't separate yourself. You become in. What you have to do is get the job, get the company, get the contract, play what they call code switch. You give them the ideal that you think that they're so perfect, but then you are the chameleon. You are the mole. While you're in there, you grab another sister, and you grab another brother, and you bring them up. And then you give them the tricks, and you tell them how to code switch. And you explain to them what you do. And when you understand how to play the game, you then can make a change. But the problem is this division, this whole idea, we got to be separate. Or, why are you acting better? Or, no,
it's okay to create a reality for yourself. It's okay to create your reality and take control of your destiny. You don't have to play any game. You are the mother civilization. The earth belongs to you. We will run them away from us if we do what we're supposed to do for one another.
And you know, Kheri,
okay, go ahead, Chris.
I was just quickly going to say the economic as well as the legislative component, they're fundamental, and they're the foundation of Black America being able to get a piece of the pie, but yet stand on their own. And the thing is that I'll put it in this perspective: white supremacy and racism, but more so white supremacy, the establishment of it in law. When you really look at it, white supremacy is not really concerned about innocent or guilt.
It has expired. White supremacy has expired.
Okay. I don't believe that. I believe that it's still in play, and the reason that I'm saying that is that Bob McCullough, people are looking at him as a district attorney, and in terms of what he did in breaking the law. But his primary role as a prosecutor is to insulate the police and the state which he represents, not the people. Because when you think about it, the reason that prosecutors with high-profile cases go off and violate the law, one, they know in 9 times out of 10, the people who it's exacted against probably are not going to do anything that's going to really bring that individual up or challenge them when it comes time to elect an individual. Then number 2, by this case, by this individual, this police officer not being indicted, guess what happened? Now the state is insulated from lawsuits. So now, even though they can sue civilly, they will be suing Darren Wilson and not the state of Missouri. So when these things happen, and I'm throwing that in there because that's the economic discourse of this. And the bottom line is that I agree. I would much prefer going to some type of banking industry of a minority of color, of something of that nature, not having to go to the mainstream media. I would much prefer to go to a black-owned business to spend my dollars. And I do know because we have over $1 trillion of money that we spend on a regular annual basis that we do need to start thinking about growing our own food, going to our own stores.
Yes, sir. $3.3 billion per year on tobacco, $3 billion per year on whiskey, wine, and beer, $2.8 billion per year on the non-alcoholic beverages. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. $3.1 billion per year on leisure time, $3.5 billion per year on toys, games, and pets. It goes on and on and on. After all these things that we spend in the billions. Do you know how much we spend on books?
I know. I hope you don't give us the numbers on that, because I'm sure they don't compare. I'm sure they don't compare. Y'all, we got to pick up some more calls. Let me pick up 314. Put that on hold just a second. I'm sure I'm not ready for the answer, though. 314-942. Good evening. You're on Center Stage.
Yes, I just wanted to say, if we really look at the laws that have been laid down, and we keep saying we want to go through the legislative aspect of this, if we really look at it, these laws have never been made to protect us. They usually have been developed to keep us enslaved. And if you go all the way back to 1877, when the prison industrial complex was started, and they started to pick us up for not truancy, but vagrancy, having a bill that we didn't pay, and throwing us in jail, the propaganda and the criminalization of the black man started long time ago, and it's never ended. So we keep going around in circles trying to think that we can be a part of this when God is trying to separate us. I really believe that. And our biblical Bible is not, just something of the past. This is us. They're talking about us. And this separation that is taking place is going to just happen. And our children, our youth, don't want to hear about trying to work through this system, because they know. I look at Cops Block, all these other things where you just get this news all the time of what police do to harass our children, kill our children. And that young boy who they said had a fake gun and the police came, they killed him in 3 seconds. I kept playing it back. They killed him in 3 seconds. And they claimed that they told him to raise his hand up, and he didn't comply, and they shot him. He drove up. He was walking toward them. He didn't even see them coming. The cop opened the door. By the time he opened that door, he shot him point blank. And the brother that was a protester, they shot him fleeing from them, and claimed he had a gun, and shot him from, they said the bullets were coming from underneath him, busted out his femur bone, and shot him in the head as he laid down, couldn't run anymore. This is wholesale murder. And this is, they have made decisions from the very top. They need to reduce our population. That biblical verse in Exodus when Herod said, let's deal with them all together, kill the boy and spare the female, that is us. And that's what's happening. And if we do not get our mind out of Pharaoh, we will be wandering in the desert till our young babies who are leading us out of this misery will save us, and we will find that we keep thinking the old way while they are made for the new day. So we can talk about some of the freedoms that we are trying to get, but we're chasing the wrong thing, because they keep showing me over and over again. And after this, I looked at, coexistence. I looked at all the things that we, keep fighting for. I'm through voting. I'm through. We voted for a black president. He stood up and said to us, we are a nation of laws. Well, they breaking them. They're the biggest lawbreakers there are.
They are lawless. They are. In your
They don't respect the law.
I'm sorry.
They don't respect the law that they put in place. They keep wanting us to respect law while they break it.
Y'all better click on Facebook. I got a real, I really lost it this week, y'all, because it was just so many emotions running through me about what I've seen and the unfairness of it all. And listen, y'all, this is what I think we got to do first of all. This is just me, and I hope y'all agree. But if you don't, we'll have to see how it all turns out if we continue down the road we're on. But first of all, we got to call a ceasefire in the black community. No more black-on-black shootings. No more black-on-black killings. We got to stop that. I mean, first of all, we can't demand better. We can't demand better that, that other people treat us any better than we treat ourselves. So
we need to show black-on-black love. I agree.
Yeah, we got to do that. We got to stop it. We got to ask the Crips, the Bloods, the Pyrus, all these jokers. I'm sorry, jokers, gangs. I meant gangs, so disrespect y'all. I have to correct that quick. I don't mean jokers, I mean gangs. Y'all got to really call a ceasefire. I mean, seriously, y'all need to be protecting this turf from our enemy, because we're not each other's enemy. The enemy is something that's coming toward us like a raging beast, kind of like that demon that Darren Wilson described Mike Brown as being. So we got that demon coming at us at 100 miles an hour. So I think these gangs need to start protecting the community. We need to start policing our own community. 13% of anything can be powerful if it's used, at once as a mighty force, and I think we got to realize that. And one of the other things I came up with this week, because again, like I said, y'all, I was full of raw emotion. I felt that, when I watched the coverage of Ferguson on TV, I considered it a city on fire. And one thing I want to mention before I forget my thought, one of the young ladies mentioned that several of those businesses that were burned were black-owned. Well, first of all, the church that Mike Brown Sr. goes to was burned. And so I'm really starting to see a pattern here that maybe these black-owned businesses were intentionally set on fire. So it's not the protesters that's setting these fires, it's provocateurs, agitators.
Yeah, we don't burn churches. That's not our M.O. We don't burn churches, sister. Never have.
We probably didn't burn any of those other businesses either. But that was weird. And that just seemed odd to me that the church gets burned. The preacher said he had over 71 death threats. We know the protesters wasn't threatening him. So we got to realize that the Klan said that they would come in there, and they did. We know that the Oath Keepers have said that they would come in there, and they probably have. We got private military contractors in there. So you got all kind of people in there on the ground doing God knows what, because we know 20-year-old DeAndre Joshua was killed just yards from where Mike Brown was killed, just yards, y'all, this week. And that we found out that he was a grand jury witness. And we were, per an article that I read, and it's online, we understand that he was told to shut up about what he saw. So was he killed based on the testimony that he gave the grand jury? Time will tell. But from all of that, I came up with this, y'all. I think we need an organization to rise from the ashes of burning Ferguson. And I think that organization needs to be COPS. And I know that sounds like, wow, COPS. COPS is an acronym for Citizens Overseeing Policing Standard. And by that, I mean these body cam videos or cameras, they need to be on every police officer, and that needs to be overseen by another agency other than the police itself. I think dash cam videos need to be activated in every police car once there's somebody stopped, period, without exception. And we shouldn't be told that it wasn't operational, because you should be checking your equipment before you go on duty. I think that in every police shooting, there should be an independent agency like COPS investigating the police officers, not just internal affairs. I think that in cases of police harassment, abuse, and brutality, that an organization like COPS needs to be overseeing the police. I think they should be called to the scene of any shootings, whether they're fatal or not. The crime scene evidence should be looked. Someone should be overlooking the police department as they're collecting and bagging this evidence to make sure. You don't want to interfere with the police, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the police are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that an independent organization ought to be able to interview the police officers about what happened, not just internal affairs, or at least be included in that process when that interview takes place. And I think, last but not least, as far as an independent agency, it's needed because we don't have transparency. And it's too many instances where I'm interviewing my brother or I'm investigating my brother, and the cold blue seems to run deep. And so if we want change, y'all, we got to make it happen. And we see, just at the way that this particular case was handled, Darren Wilson was allowed to go home, wash all the blood off of himself before he was ever swabbed. Darren Wilson was allowed to take his gun home, then bring it to the police department and bag it into evidence himself. Where do they do that at? So it's so many
That's
things
been happening in America for centuries, though. It's been happening. That is what happens in America. It always has happened that way.
Well,
yep, and
you
that's
know
why
what?
it's going to be a change.
I'm sorry.
You want to change that?
Yeah, we're going to change that. See,
you're going to change his attitude. You're going to change his heart. You're going to change his attitude and his mind. Instead of allowing the blueprint calls on 16 million black wage earners to give 35 cents a week to a national treasury. In 1 year, the fund will amass $291 million.
Let me address what you just said. If I gave 35 cents a week, how soon can I get into this land? It's not going to happen overnight. So until then,
it is not going to happen overnight. Honey, America is what, 250 years old, or is it 500 years old?
250. Okay. But I'm saying, I'm not saying that you're.
You want some instant gratification? You've been in North America for 400 years, and you have not changed their hearts and minds. Therefore, you don't have any vision of 1 year. We're talking 16 million people to do it.
Okay,
get on with it. Go to the economicblueprint.org, sister. Just go to it.
I'm not, sister, you know what? Go ahead.
We have our own template, family.
We have our own template, family. This is set up. We nationwide with this, what we're working on. This is so wonderful. If you all just go to IBEBPAC.org and see what we got going on. Everything that we're talking about, check that website out. It is so awesome.
Yes, sir. I will do it tonight.
Let me say something, and this was said to y'all earlier, and I kind of agree, but I agree, but I didn't say anything. I agreed, but I didn't say anything. Africa right now, over there in Liberia, over there in Guinea, right now they're putting Ebola out there because you know what? Because they're isolated over there, and they can do it like that. They can poison the water, give the people symptoms that appear to mimic that of what's supposed to be Ebola.
That's right here, sister. That's right here, sister. That's right here.
Sister, listen to you. Listen to me. What my point is saying that is, when Anissa mentioned to you all earlier about the separatism stuff, we go over into a land way over somewhere, and they do us like a Waco. Or they do us like what they do in Nigeria.
Right here. Right here where you are.
Sister,
right
no,
here.
I get that. I'm saying you go to Mississippi. There's no difference. You can poison the water in Mississippi. I know you know that. You can poison
and don't forget, Kheri, Kheri, don't forget, there's a country called Mexico that's actually on the same continent that we have poured poison into their water, that we have fenced around them. See, people have to understand something, especially if you decide that you want to get a piece of the land and you fight for the right, reparations, whatever. You get this piece of the land. Now, you're not a superpower. You're here and you're beholden. Now get this, unless you get New York and California, Florida, you have no access to water. Now trade becomes an issue. Understand something. When you develop a product, understand, when you develop a product, you must have a customer to buy the product. Then you must be able to transport the product. Let's say we're successful and we do get our own country. Let's say we get our own country like Texas has been trying to do forever. Let's say we get Texas, just arbitrarily say Texas. When we get ready to negotiate with the new United States of America, they're going to tax our butt to no end. They're going to use the tariff. So when we try to sell to Japan, we got to get past them. See, understand the entire dynamics of how it works. Just to become an independent country isn't just black and white. Can I say something? I'm going to go strictly by scripture. When the Exodus happened, God was coming after Pharaoh for all of the sins, and I'm just letting you know that their day is numbered. They're not going to have the power they used to have. We are worrying about them like they are God beside God, and He is coming to put us back in the state that we used to be in. So we can sit and worry about if we separate from them, they're going to come and get us. And if we hear our conversation, it is right there in the Bible. The same worries that the people had, that they were saying, oh, I didn't get my lentils, I missed that, they suffered a little bit. I'm saying to you that we better have some faith, because that's what we're going to need to get through this Red Sea, because that's exactly what this is. And God is coming after America. America is the modern-day Babylon and Pharaoh. And they are not going to last with all this blood. It is not going to continue. I'm mad as hell. It's not going to continue. That's the God I believe in. I don't know what your faith is, but the God I believe in, I see that this is the modern-day Babylon, and that's why they're coming against us, because they know. And when you think about the scriptures, when Pharaoh and his chariots was coming at the children of Israel, because they knew their time was up, and they wanted us to go down with them. So we need to get a new mindset and understand that God is coming to give us freedom. So if we're worrying about some little fence and poisoning, they don't have the kind of power that we think they have. We're giving them too much.
We have tribunals.
Christopher, were you saying something?
Yes, we do have tribunals on that. I work with political action with the Green Party here in the city of St. Louis. It taught me the Katrina Tribunal. We also have a tribunal on Monsanto to correct all those things pertaining to our food with GMOs in it and so forth. But we will share the resources, like I said, for solutions for the problem. Every issue of life, there's a solution to it, and for everybody having testimonies and businesses and students, that's what's more, important for our survival right now. Everybody will reap what they sow. Karma is no joke, and the portals are open for us to develop ourselves, and we have done this, and we will share.
And we do have this business with the solar panels,
renewable energy,
the rainwater,
everything.
I get that. Listen, y'all, we want to stay on topic just a little bit, though, tonight. We're talking about that grand jury decision and how it caused unrest. And I do appreciate y'all, and y'all give your website out one more time about how they can find y'all on the web.
Okay. I'm Governor Susie Mayberry Parker, and I'm with Infinity Building Economics and Black Political Action Committees here in the city of St. Louis. I'm networking for our veterans, our disabled to be able. The website is IBEBPAC.org.
Okay. Appreciate that. Listen, if you just tuned in and you come to the station tonight, we're talking about the topic, why the Mike Brown grand jury decision is causing unrest. The calling number is 347-850-8390. Then you press 1. Again, the calling number is 347-850. That's some noise in the background. That's 347-850-8390. Then you press 1. Topic we're talking about tonight is, should Bob McCullough be removed from office? Was the grand jury bombarded with too much information? Was the grand jury given misleading information about when an officer can use deadly force? Should the grand jury have been given the charges to consider rather than be asked to decide what the officer was going to be charged with? All these are things that we have on the table tonight. 206, I'm going to come to you one more time. The last time I came to you, you didn't seem to know I was talking to you. 206-860. Good evening. You're on Center Stage. 206-860. Okay, if you would, just press 1 again and take yourself out of rotation. We're going to go to a number that's showing up as 111-1111. Good evening. You're on Center Stage.
Good evening, Miss Kheri and everyone on the line. This is Nanny. I called in, first of all, while we were focused on Ferguson, Mike Brown, and his family, and black folk. The immigration executive order that President Obama made on the 20th of November, it also includes that any employer that hires an illegal immigrant will get $3,000 per person. This is really stunning to me. And it also goes against everything that we're fighting for or that we desire, because the jobs that they get, the illegal immigrants, are the ones that we got. Many, many, many black people use those jobs in the hotels, on the railroads, everywhere, to raise up quality families, quality children, had a good way of life. Here we are fighting for just justice in the court system, but yet economically we're being knocked back by the first black president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, I hear a lot of folk calling in and talking about our economic dollars. One thing I want folk to consider is that the government gives out unemployment numbers that are erroneous. They're incorrect. They're used to hide the fact that unemployment is very high, maybe in the 20 percentile. So we need to consider, when we hear the numbers about black folks spending trillions of dollars, where are those statistics coming from and why? And I think one of the reasons is to make us believe that we are a huge part of the economic picture in this country. We are a large part, but the numbers just don't ring clear to me when I see how our people are suffering economically. So I just wanted to include that in the fray, and I'll just listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nettie. The thing is, I think there's so many things we need to be doing. I think the protesters to can stay out there in the cold and the heat and, God knows what other kind of inclement weather is coming this winter, indefinitely is unrealistic. I think this is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. I think it's a relay race. In a relay race, you go a certain leg and then you pass it on to the next people and then they pass it on and then you get there. And I think what has happened is they're doing some phenomenal work in shutting stuff down. But I think it's going to take some more stuff. I think it's going to take some brilliant minds coming together to fix this. But I think, first of all, since it started in Ferguson needs to be fixed first. McCullough's got to go. I think there needs to be a recall election, and I think everybody needs to get behind that, and I think y'all need to make sure he comes out of there. And I think the district attorney who got up and gave those erroneous instructions, I think she needs to go too. I think everyone who participated, I think his office obviously needs an overhaul. Because if you can call yourself the top cop, which that's what they call the district attorney, if the top cop is that crooked, then the top cop needs to go. And I think everything underneath him that's not right needs to go too. In my opinion, I think they need to dismantle Ferguson. If the truth be known, I think you need your mayor gone. I think you need your police chief gone. I think you need your DA gone. And I think really they should just dismantle that little municipality and put you all maybe under St. Louis County. That's just my opinion, because if it's that broken, I don't know if it's fixable by picking one person out of this department and another person out of that department and saying it's fixed. I think that whole thing needs to burn down. I mean, and I don't mean that in a literal sense, so don't take me that way. But I'm just saying, I just think it needs to be fixed. I think it's so corrupt, and it's been corrupt for so long, and your whole ticket program is based on getting revenues for the city. I think all of that's just craziness. I think it's beyond crazy, and I think it's gone on for too long, and it took Mike Brown's death to be the catalyst for the whole world to look in through the glass window and see that city is jacked up. I mean, from the floor up. And I think absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, nothing is going to fix it until it's completely dismantled, and I mean brick by brick, period.
Kheri, brilliant.
Yes.
You are brilliant. They have already done it to a couple of municipalities. They've done it to Berkeley. They've done it to Wellston. And it's not that complicated. I think you're absolutely right. I think that was a brilliant statement, and you are good at what you do, honey. I have, hands down, I respect you because you got it. You understand the big picture.
I do. You know what? That's what I do, because I understand this one like I did Trayvon Martin. We did a series on it. And so when I look at these shows and what to do and all of that in terms of what we're going to talk about, this one scares me. It scares me beyond anything I've ever seen, because it's going to set the wrong tone that an officer can shoot you in broad daylight. You can have 100 black witnesses, but none of them are going to be considered credible because the DA, the top cop, is going to get on national TV and discredit their testimony. Where has that ever happened in history? This man wore so many hats the other night. Honest to God, I think he slipped and put a hood on. I mean, because he was prosecutor, he was defense attorney, he was spokesperson. I mean, he was just wearing way too many hats the other night. And I'm thinking, all we really want to know is he going to be indicted or not? But we got a 20-minute speech of him tearing down every eyewitness account of what happened. Now, the problem I have with that is, do we really want to let the record reflect that everybody lied? Do we really want him to get away with saying that everybody who gave an eyewitness account was just lying? I mean, they just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, saw a murder take place, and they, for whatever reason, chose to go and perjure themselves by giving a testimony to the grand jury that didn't actually happen. Why did they do that? Who wants to get involved with a case like this just for what? I mean, that's just crazy. What he said made no sense. Did anybody else see that like I saw it? Did it make sense to y'all?
Well, he skipped and he ran around everything, and the bottom line is that the very thing that McCullough and his assistant, Miss Alzada, basically did is they broke the law. But in terms of, now that's one thing, but then people may say, well, okay, they broke the law. The district attorneys, state's attorneys, they break the law every day. Yes, but most people don't call them on the carpet. And the way you call them on the carpet is you take what law they broke, you take the evidence of what they broke, and then you deal with wrongful use of civil proceedings and abuse of process. That law is on the book in every state. But the problem becomes that when you do something of this nature, you have to realize any municipal that you deal with, one person trying to fight a battle like that, the municipal is going to have more money, more attorneys, and more time than that one person will ever have. So there has to be an organized, united, galvanized front with money or being able to raise money, because at this point, believe me, I would be willing to donate money towards a central entity or body that would be raising money to get rid of both McCullough and the assistant, because they violated the law. They introduced a law that was no longer constitutionally in play, and it was then unconstitutional, but they ran with it anyway and presented it to the jury. So that right off the bat tainted it, and they broke the law. So I think when we start getting to the realms of frustration and so forth, I'm fighting a case that I've been fighting against the city for the last 5.5 years, and people call me crazy. But the reason that I'm doing it, if I had just sat back on my hunches, nothing was going to happen. So I got with some people, started raising a little money here, a little money there, because I knew it was going to take money. But in this case, we need to be quick, not only asking the Department of Justice to come in, we need to be filing a civil federal lawsuit against the district attorney because they violated the law. And I think it's that simple. And then you can call him on the carpet, and then you can get not just a petition, but you can also get you can actually get this to be heard before a judge to get a determination, to get a jury trial against this misconduct.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think, you know what, I think the problem with us a lot of times is, we don't want to spend any money. I think we absolutely need to start doing fundraisers if you don't want to come out your own pocket. I think we need to do fundraisers and come up with a brilliant legal team. I think that legal team needs to start advising us on where to move forward. from what standpoint it's legal, what's not legal, how it's going to affect us. I think we got to do all sorts of things like that. I think we absolutely have to have teams. I think we have a million different skill sets in our group. I think we need to start utilizing individual skill sets, determine who's in your group, who has what skill set, and start using that to our advantage. I think all the above. I think there needs to be strategizing going on 24/7. I think we got to come off of social media in the sense of Twitter and Facebook because it's not our friend. I was censored so many times this week. I got dizzy. I've never said anything violent. I've never advocated violence. I don't do that. The last thing I think is anybody should get hurt in this. But was I censored? Absolutely. And I'm thinking Twitter, Facebook, censoring my comments, and all I'm talking about is positive things to uplift my community. And anybody who follows me on Facebook and Twitter can tell you that. So I think we absolutely got to be creating websites of our own that we can communicate with each other. I think we need to start doing conference calls, on a weekly basis where we're strategizing. I think all of that stuff has got to happen. And I think in terms of what's going on in Ferguson, that, I heard Alex Jones call Ferguson, they said he called it the test beta, I think he called it the beta test that's going to be used in Ferguson to determine if they're going to kick off civil war. We got to understand what a militarized police presence means for us. We can't have our people going out there and getting hit with bean bags and putting out eyes and spook, which was her, I think, the first night of the protest. She got shot in the head. That's something nobody's talking about. Spook could have died. She was shot in the head. And what very few people are reporting on is that Spook went to the hospital, went into surgery. Some police, nobody seems to know who the police was, but a police officer came to the hospital, took the bullet, and now the bullet has mysteriously disappeared. Nobody knows who the officer was, what the officer's name was, what department he was with. Nobody seems to know nothing. And so there's a lot going on. And whoever killed DeAndre Joshua, y'all, that's dangerous for those protesters to be out there. So even though we appreciate the sacrifice they've made to this point, I think we gotta do better. We gotta pick up the second leg because we don't want those young people out there getting killed. If it's another way to fix this, rather than them being out there and putting themselves up against tear gas and beanbags and rubber bullets and real bullets, and snipers and oath keepers who are out there trying to kill people, and KKK who said they're going to kill people, I think, y'all, we need to do more. Does anybody agree that we got to pick up the second leg and try to save these young people from whatever's out there in the street that appears not to be very friendly for the protesters?
Well, Kheri, I would recommend, and I'm sure that many of your listeners and your panel would probably disagree with what I'm about to say, but I would like to encourage all young African males here in America to leave this place. We want you and we value you back in West Africa. There's many opportunities for you there, many organizations and corporations that you can create and earn a very, very nice living. There have been many people to leave America, expatriate from America, and go back home where your family and your friends will actually accept you. The police will not beat you like they beat you here in America. They will not racially profile you like they profile you here in America. Unlike many people here in America will have you thinking that in Africa we swing from vines and things of that nature, but that's just not the truth. I would like to encourage all of our African young men and women, those that would like to come, to leave this place because this place does not have your best interest in mind. We have several examples of those that have left this country. One is David Robinson, the great late Jackie Robinson's son, left this country and went to Tanzania, now has over a 40-acre bean farm with a major co-op with other farmers there.
and they now trade on the stock exchange. So it can be done, and I can give you many other examples as well from Americans who left this country and went back to West Africa and other countries in Africa for that matter, and are now very, very wealthy and are doing very, very good. So that would be my ploy to all African males in this country. If you have a desire, and I'm sure I'm probably talking to maybe only 10% of them, but if you're listening to this message, please leave this country, and we do have people ready to accept you.
Now, when you say leave this country, leave and go where? I mean, what part of Africa are we talking about?
Well, I would strongly advise you to do your own research, but I can tell you this. If you go to Ghana is giving away land to African Americans free of charge. You're always welcome to come to Cameroon. I can tell you that right off. We don't have Ebola in Cameroon, okay, and we don't have all these other erroneous diseases and things that are viruses that they want to portray that are throughout the whole continent of Africa. So there are many different countries that you can go to within West Africa, or you can go South Africa, or if you want to go to East Africa or North Africa. The continent of Africa is huge, okay, and so there are many countries in Africa. I would advise each and every one of our young people to do some research to find out which country they'd like to go. It doesn't take a lot of money to live like it does here. The people there are very, very nice, friendly. Nobody is trying to shoot you. A matter of fact, police in most countries in Africa don't even carry a gun. Okay? So when you start talking about violence, the whole concept of violence really doesn't even exist on a local level in Africa. Only what is portrayed, within this media that you see all of these people riding around on the back of trucks carrying guns and things of that nature. But once you go and see for yourself, I can guarantee you, all of our young people, you will thrive and you will flourish. You won't have to deal with this foolishness, and you won't have to keep fighting a system that don't want you here. And again, this is a message to our young black men. Many people here in this country will continue to try to make you stay here and deal with this foolishness, but just know you don't have to stay here and deal with this. You can reach for the stars and go anywhere in this world you want to. Leave this country. If you have that opportunity, take it.
Can I add to that? I have lived abroad, and the reality of living abroad, a lot of us seem to be, we're afraid to leave for whatever reason because we really don't know what lies outside of it. But I think that if we chronologically look at how we got to where we are now, this what we keep coining black-on-black crime is directly related to the coexistence that we're trying to maintain. When you have a people who hunt you like animals and put you under an oppressive situation so stressfully, the stress of it makes you turn on one another. And so there is a connection. The one thing that President Obama will not elaborate on when he says there is a relationship to the violence in the black community, what he's saying is after slavery, when they ran into our black towns that we created, even though we were illiterate, we had skills, they took our land, they kicked us out and gave us 24 hours to get out, and then they made what is called sundown ordinances, where we could not come back after 5 o'clock. We could not remain in there after 5 o'clock. And my friend and I, we went down every little county in Southwest, I think it was in Southwest and West Missouri, where all of these towns and white people were giving their account as to how they had these signs up as long as in the 70s in some places where it said, "Niggas, get out. Do not let us catch you after 5 o'clock." These were laws that they passed. So anytime you have somebody under that kind of stress, if we look at what Frantz Fanon said, that our violence is connected to the violence against us. Our mental illness is connected to the white supremacy against us. So separation is not some, crazy racist type of cry. We need to get with our own. We need to find that people do live in peace. the propaganda, and also that Ebola piece, the people there are saying that those who got Ebola were those who got vaccinated.
Exactly.
There's a connection between that. So we keep trusting them. We don't know who we're looking at. We keep acting like they have a heart for us. They don't. They really don't. And the reason why we have the self-hatred that we have is because we've been inundated with the images that they keep propagandizing, the criminality of us, so they can justify putting us in jail. They can justify shooting us wholesale. Our education is crap. And Kheri, what I wanted to say, before we tell our brothers and sisters to stop killing each other, we have to educate them, because there's a correlation between illiteracy and violence and all the other crime that comes with it. And I'm a tutor here, and what I've seen, and I'm from Chicago, what I've seen in this educational system here and what they have allowed and what they have done, even black teachers, the things that they take out of the school system thinking that a child will flourish, reducing the time that they can spend on phonics, not allowing them to have dictionaries in the classroom, giving teachers a penalty if they use a dictionary for a lesson plan. I could not believe it. So we don't understand the systematic plot, and it's coming from the very top. They're talking about how do we reduce their population. This is what we're dealing with. They are an open enemy. Open. They're not hiding it. And the reason why Bob McCullough could do what he did is because you can go to Facebook, you can go to Twitter, and find white people who condone it, who support it, and Walmart gave money to Darren Wilson's trial. Some other big benefactor gave money to George Zimmerman's trial. His father was a top judge. So you have a system that supported this. And I know we may not, history is my thing. This is not the first, this is not a precedent. This has been ongoing. Dred Scott came from St. Louis. They shipped him to Illinois to work where his master died. He was jobbed out to somebody in Illinois. When his master died, he was trying to get his freedom because he lived in Illinois. And they said he was 3. Pardon me?
You need to connect with me on Facebook. We got to pick up some more calls, but you need to connect.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are we following each other on Facebook?
Yes, we are. You inbox me.
Great.
You inbox me lots of things. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, we got to put that on hold while we pick up just a couple
of calls. I'm sorry for taking so long.
That's okay. 202-710. Good evening. You're on center stage. And 314-333. You're next. And somebody else was on. I don't know who that was. I lost you on the line. 111. Good evening. 202.
Good evening. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Harvey Shaw. Not only am I an activist, I've been born and raised in St. Louis myself. I have my sister on the phone with me, too. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sister.
Good evening.
And I don't mic open?
Yeah.
Maybe we lost her. Are you there, sister?
We're here.
Okay.
We're here. We're listening.
She may be mute. All right. Look, we're coming in very late in your program, but I simply want to leave a piece of information that is very critical to this entire discussion. And I'm in full agreement with the gentleman that said that people should think about living other places. It would be healthy. Having said that, and I agree with the lady who's talking about genocide, I want to put on the table, because everyone's talking about the grand jury and the shooting and so forth. There's something very basic that most of us don't know, and it's called the United Nations Basic Principles for the Use of Force and Firearms by Law Enforcement Officials. And I'm going to send that to you, Sister Kheri. The reason I'm mentioning this is that we've had tens of thousands of blacks shot and or killed by law enforcement officials who had no right to shoot people under international law, convention, and covenant, which means every time a black person gets shot, like there's something up on YouTube, a guy in South Carolina is at the gas station, the policeman comes up and he starts shooting the guys trying to do what he said do, and he's shooting him. That's against international law. International law is not just the law for the planet, it's the law for the United States. What really needs to happen is that we need to put Uncle Sam on trial, and we haven't done that. African-American people, forgive me, we're cowards. And we're like an abused child that doesn't want to report their parents. Now, how many whelps on your face do you need from the extension cord or Hot Wheels track? And the counselors in school were saying, how'd you get that? And say, oh, well, my brother and I were playing. At some point, we have to take steps to be an independent people. The first thing we have to do is prove, which is easily done, that human rights doesn't exist here for us. There's nothing legitimate about Anglo-American or white rule over black people in this country. It's always been wrong. It's under illegal context. There's no statute of limitation for genocide or the mass enslavement or mass killing of people. When white folks say get over it, forget, McCullough, who dogged out Michael Brown's family, he hasn't forgotten. The white folks are the most history-oriented people of all when they don't like you. So I will send that to you, but every time a person gets shot, it's against international law, and in the history of the United States, not one time have we, with tens of thousands of people shot and killed, brought charges against the government of the United States.
And that's
Harvey, I need to get your contact information because we actually did it. I've already turned it in. The Brown family has already gave testimony to the United Nations about the United States of America.
Giving testimony
right.
isn't filing. They didn't file.
But we actually, that's what we're in the process.
File.
Right, that's what we're in the process of doing right now, and we're putting together the evidence. But what I need from you is your phone number.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I can connect you. I'll send that. The key thing I want to remind as well as advise you to have Dr. Ansari, who runs the school that I posted on your Skype. There is a school that teaches people how to take the steps to get human rights while we're in the United States. It's called the American Institute of Human Rights. It's based in Atlanta. You can learn online in the comfort of your home, or eventually we'll be able to come to your communities and teach you. If folks want to be in touch with either me, because I work with this school, as one of its PR directors, that you can put them in touch with me, and I can put them in touch with the American Institute of Human Rights. And and if you want, they do have a listing for their courses. It's all one word coming, humanrightscourses.com, www.humanrightscourses.com. We can fight this. There are all sorts of tools. Many people fail to recognize that Rodney King died a millionaire, whether he was high or not. The difference was Dr. Ansari, who's head of the school I mentioned, he and I had the same mentor, a gentleman trained by Malcolm X and others, took Rodney King's case before the Chinese and the Cubans, and that's why Rodney King, who was alive, got paid millions of dollars, and the white officers that beat him at least did some jail time. We've had at least 9,000 blacks either grievously injured or killed by police since Rodney King was beaten, and practically none of these officers got charged. So the international community is key. International law is key. Forget about the laws of the Anglo-Americans. They don't even honor them themselves. If you had an opportunity and saw that the most racist Supreme Court justice of all, Antonin Scalia, denounced McCullough and denounced the grand jury process in Ferguson. Here's a man that's for the death penalty and torture. You can't get a more racist judge than Scalia, and he's mad. Just to let you know, a racist white person can't believe that happened. That's how crazy it is in Ferguson. And it's even crazier than New York. Last comment. It's not going to get better unless we force it to get better, because the killer cop queen, the killer cop hugger, attorney Loretta Lynch of the Eastern District of New York, who's helped hundreds of police beat and or kill blacks in New York for almost 20 years, is who Obama wants to be the next attorney general. She's a killer cop hugger. She's a killer cop queen. Abner Louima, Sean Bell, Kamani Gray, Ramali Graham. You wonder why none of the cops are going. Even this guy, Eric Garner. This is a woman, it's a black woman, by the way, who's the architect of allowing shoot to kill to become a national policy, starting in New York and going nationwide.
Wow. Okay, y'all, listen, I lost 314-333. If you call back in, I will take your call. I apologize. 314-333. If you call back in, I will take your call.
You needed my number, sister?
I'm going to send it to her. Don't worry. Don't worry.
No, I will connect y'all on Facebook. I will after the show. The person that just wanted this call, his number, if you would contact me on Facebook, I'll connect you with them. Okay, 111-111. I'm not sure if I've gone to you already, but I'm going to come back to you again, and let's just see if good evening. Okay.
Hello?
All the numbers are...
This is Nanny again.
Okay, that was funny.
Can you hear me?
So, yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to also report that Dorian Johnson, the supporters of Darren Wilson, is trying to get him up on charges for perjury. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
No.
In addition, the idea of black folk moving away from this country, now with the young black males, they're going to run up against a big problem. If they have a criminal record, they cannot leave this country. But maybe if we can petition the heads of other states and other countries to allow black folk in, then it would work. But just a mass exodus is not going to work. You lose all of your privileges. You can't get a passport, visa, nothing, if you have a criminal record. So take care, everyone. I look forward to talking with you
Let me
next week.
share with you one thing.
Okay.
I agree and then disagree. This country is full of criminal Jews that have dual citizenship. This country is full of criminal Mexicans that have almost dual citizenship. There are a lot of people who get what they want. Black folks have a problem again. We haven't told people we're getting it anyhow. In fact, I'm certain that racist members of Congress and the Senate would happily give passports to us if we wanted to leave. Oh, yes, I don't have a doubt. In reality, there's a greater sense of not knowing about Africa or not liking Africa or not considering Africa's potential is a greater problem than their resistance to us leaving. However, you are right. In the 60s, at the height of the Cold War, the United States threatened the government of Tanzania, which opened the doors of the country to black people, and they were told they had to take it back.
I have a problem with that.
Even with Katrina, governments wanted to help the black folk in New Orleans, but they were not allowed.
By Bush, and Obama wouldn't let them help the people in Haiti.
Right.
He let
So I'm bringing that to the table so that we'll know this is what we're up against, and we need to work around it.
Can I speak for 1 second?
Sure. Go ahead.
As from St. Louis, born and bred. Here's the problem I have with that statement of if we have a criminal history. If that is the case, the biggest crime that in our American society was when they came over here and what they did to the Native Americans.
Exactly. That's right.
So let me finish this, Brother Short, because I'm going somewhere with this. If we're going to be tried as criminals, I think criminalization should be tried across the whole board of what does it mean to be a criminal. Is it a criminal because you were hungry one day and went to go rob a store, or you went to rob a whole country? What does it mean to be a criminal? And when you criminalize a certain individual race, you have to be specific with that. And it's like the specifics outweigh the whole terminology of what does it mean to be a criminal.
Isn't that considered a political refugee? What you're talking about? Would that be
absolutely?
Yes.
Absolutely, he's right. Larry Pinckney who's a member of the Black Panthers who lives in Minnesota, got asylum in Canada, and he's the only person that sued the U.S. government and won. The U.S. government doesn't recognize international law, but the United Nations basically accused the United States of violating the human rights of African Americans this week, last week, and back when they did the Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, where they said apartheid exists in this country. I actually believe we can petition the governments, and if the people aren't coming over with problems, they can come. Believe it or not, the countries where people are welcome, some of the countries will welcome irrespective. In reality, Libya, until Obama destroyed the government people, had an open door to African Americans coming. In case y'all don't know that. There are 200,000 black Americans living in Ghana as I speak. There are tens of thousands in South Africa and in Tanzania. People have moved. I think in Africa they're more concerned about what it is you're going to do once you get there than what you did before you got there. And so, I mean, in reality, the vast majority of black men in this country that have been charged, it was either low-level possession or use, or they were framed without access to legal protection and were forced to plead. Everyone knows this is why we must go to the UN, because when we show that this is a criminal society in relationship to how it treats us, no one wants to hear about what the criminals who run the society, what they have to say. Dr. Martin Luther King described the conditions in which blacks may commit offenses. He called it derivative crimes, derived from the greater crime of white apartheid, slavery, segregation, lynching. They're the criminals. You know, if I kidnap someone and lock them in my basement, feed them once a day, and they snatch a cupcake, how is kidnapper and molester the judge, jury, and the lawgiver in reality? We give too much legitimacy. White people aren't gods, and in fact, they're perhaps the most pathetic creation in terms of human beings, how they've treated other people the last 500 years.
We got to get out of here. Listen, panel, closing remarks. Kumo, we haven't heard from you in a long time. Kumo, what's your final remarks tonight?
I've just enjoyed the show, Kheri, basically. This whole conversation about this Ferguson situation has been very interesting and very knowledgeable. I'm just in hope that the Justice Department steps in and try to help clear some of the ills that's been surrounding this case.
Okay. Alyssa, your final comment.
I agree about the political refugee, and there are actual countries that are willing to pay Americans to leave and go there. But that being said, to be completely honest with you, no one's running me away from my property. I'm here to stand and fight. Look, my forefathers helped build this country, and I'm going to tell you something, I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to tell you this right now. The Klan would love for us to go. Get on the boat, go right on ahead. No, you don't tell me what I need to do. We as Americans should have a right to be able to choose. And you're right, we are working with the United Nations, and we actually are getting ready to go deeper. But that's why I wanted to get contact information so that we can have it. We have sunshined video from the police department. This isn't from citizens. From the police department showing outright things that you would see in third world countries from dictators. And that is our evidence moving forward. But like I said, if it's considered political refugees, the one thing you talk about reparations, there might be opportunities there to wait the same way that they are paying American companies to hire illegal immigrants. We will have an opportunity. You just got to put your ducks in a row.
I agree, sister.
Black men, we're not going to Africa as a refugee. We're going as men. We're going to establish ourselves in our home, in our motherland. We will be successful. This country don't give a damn about you, and those that want to stay, let them stay.
Yes.
We will write, we will call, we will email, we will send them pictures. Go home where people will love you, people will cherish you, People will look at you as the kings that you are. Take your rightful place in society. Go home where you belong. You are in a foreign land. Although your ancestors have fought, have spent billions of dollars here in this country, and yet to see any return, go home where you will be loved.
Okay, co-host Christopher.
I love that. I love that.
I did too. I did.
I'm 36 years old, and what I feel about what I heard the sister say, what I heard you just say, brother, and what I heard you say, Brother Short, if I can sum it all up in my own words coming from St. Louis, we are in a foreign land, and we were put here for a reason. But we don't have to die here. We don't have to strive here. Nobody is stopping us from doing what we were called to do, and we are God's chosen few.
Okay, we got to get out of here.
I love what I heard. I love what I heard.
I did too. Christopher, well, we got to get out of here. We are on overtime. Co-host Christopher Barnes, final comment.
I would just like to say 4 points. Unification of Black America, socioeconomic control in the Black spectrum, and then pushing on, like Dr. Short said, to United Nations, to the World Court, to formally push forward charges against the United States, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, y'all, listen, this has been a very interesting dialogue. I learned a lot. I hope you all did too. We got to do more of this, y'all, in order to fix this problem. I say to Ferguson, recall Bob McCullough. I say shut it down. Y'all talking about shut it down. Dismantle that municipality from top to bottom, brick by brick. Take out Ferguson, and I don't mean burn it down. I mean go the proper course in terms of recall election and in terms of getting that government shut down so that you all can go underneath St. Louis County and dismantle all that ugliness and that evil that's come from that part of the country for far too long. Listen, y'all, join us here each and every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. This is what we do, bring topics like this center stage. We love you all. We say happy holidays to you and your family. Be safe out there. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.